Daniel froze at the doorway, unsure whether to shout, run, or simply breathe. The woman in front of him looked fragile, her dark hair tied in a loose bun, her clothes worn and damp as if she'd been out in the rain. She didn't move, just stared at the photograph, trembling in her hands. "Who are you?" he asked, his voice cracking from a mix of fear and disbelief. "I'm sorry," she said softly. "I didn't mean to scare you. I just needed somewhere quiet. Somewhere she used to be." Daniel's chest tightened. "She? You knew my daughter?" The woman nodded slowly, her eyes glistening under the dim light. "Her name was Lily, right? She used to come to the park every Sunday with her mom. She always shared her ice cream with a stray dog that waited by the fountain. I used to sit on the same bench." Daniel felt his throat close. "That was years ago, before the accident." "I know," she whispered, her fingers brushing over the edge of the picture frame. "I was there that day." Silence swallowed the room. Outside, thunder rolled softly in the distance. Daniel stepped closer, tried to read her face, trying to remember. But there was something about her eyes, deep, tired, guilty. "What do you mean you were there?" he asked. The woman finally looked up, meeting his gaze for the first time. "The day it happened, the crash, I was driving the other car." For a moment, Daniel couldn't speak. Every sound in the world seemed to vanish, leaving only the pounding of his heart. His breath turned shallow, his knees weak. He wanted to yell, to throw her out, to erase her words from his mind. But instead, he just stood there, staring. "I've been living with it every day since," she continued, voice shaking. "I went to prison. I served my time, but I never forgave myself. I came here tonight because I needed to see her room. I thought maybe if I could just understand who she was, I could finally—" "Stop," Daniel snapped, the grief he'd buried for years clawing its way back up. "You think breaking into my house is some kind of therapy? You think you could just walk in here and make it right?" Tears filled her eyes, but she didn't move. "No, I came to ask for forgiveness, even if I don't deserve it." Daniel turned away, his hands trembling. Forgiveness. The one thing he'd promised himself he'd never give. Daniel gripped the doorframe so hard his knuckles turned white. He didn't know whether to scream or cry. For years, he had pictured the face of the person who destroyed his world. Faceless, nameless, a shadow he could blame for everything. Now that shadow stood in front of him, trembling, human, crying. He forced his voice to stay steady. "You killed my daughter." The woman's head dropped. "Yes." The single word felt like a punch to his chest. "Then why are you here? What did you possibly want from me?" Her eyes filled again. "To tell you the truth. You deserve that much." Daniel laughed bitterly, shaking his head. "The truth? The truth is that my little girl is gone because you were careless." "I wasn't drunk," she said quickly, her voice cracking. "I wasn't texting. It was raining, the light turned green, and I don't want your excuses." She flinched but didn't move. "I thought that for years too, that there was no excuse, no reason that mattered. But every night I see her, your daughter, standing there in the rain. I can't sleep. I can't breathe. I tried to end it once, but something stopped me. A voice. Her voice. She said, 'Tell my dad the truth.' So I found the courage to come here." Daniel stared at her, feeling the ground shift beneath him. His mind told him to throw her out, to call the police, to make her suffer. But another part of him, the part that still remembered the way Lily's laughter filled this room, hesitated. "You expect me to believe that my daughter talks to you from the afterlife?" he asked coldly. "No," she said softly. "I expect you to believe that guilt can sound a lot like a ghost." The clock ticked loudly in the silence that followed. Daniel's breathing grew heavier, the anger inside him turning to exhaustion. "You don't belong here." "I know," she whispered. "Just let me say what I came to say, and I'll leave forever." He didn't answer, but he didn't stop her either. She took a shaky breath. When they pulled her out of the car, she was holding something. A small stuffed rabbit. "I kept it, not because I wanted to steal from her, but because I didn't know what else to do. It was the last thing that touched her hands. I kept it in a box for all these years, waiting for the day I could return it to you." From her bag, she pulled out a faded pink rabbit, the same one Lily used to carry everywhere. Daniel felt the air leave his lungs. The fur was worn, one ear missing, but it was unmistakable. He reached for it slowly, his fingers trembling as he touched the toy. Memories hit him like waves, the giggles, the bedtime stories, the way Lily used to hug that rabbit when she was scared. A lump formed in his throat. "You kept this?" "I couldn't throw it away," she said. "It was the only piece of innocence I had left." Daniel turned the rabbit over in his hands, unable to stop the tears now burning his eyes. For the first time in years, he didn't feel anger, just an unbearable, aching sadness. The rain began again, gentle at first, then heavier, tapping against the windows like the heartbeat of the night. Daniel sat on the edge of Lily's bed, the rabbit cradled in his hands. The woman, her name still unknown to him, stood by the door, soaked in silence. He finally spoke. "What's your name?" "Clara," she whispered. "Clara." He said it like a question, like he was testing how it felt on his tongue. The name of the person who had haunted his nightmares for 5 long years. Clara's eyes were swollen from crying. "I didn't come here to make you pity me. I just couldn't carry it anymore. I thought if you saw that I wasn't a monster, maybe—" Daniel cut her off. "You think this makes you human to me?" She didn't answer. She didn't need to. Her tears already did. He looked around the room, the little bed with faded sheets, the wall where Lily's drawings still hung, her crayon sunshines, stick figure family, a rainbow that said home. He'd left everything exactly as it was, like a shrine. Even the smell, faint vanilla and baby powder, still lingered. Clara's gaze followed his. She must have been amazing. She was, he said quietly. She was everything. The words slipped out before he could stop them. He hadn't talked about Lily in years. Not really. People had stopped asking. Friends drifted away. The world moved on, but he stayed here, frozen in time. "Do you have kids?" he asked suddenly. Clara shook her head. "No, I never could after that. I didn't deserve to." He studied her face again, searching for something, remorse, fear, maybe hope. But all he saw was the same pain he carried, reflected back at him. She hesitated, then said softly, "Can I tell you something I've never told anyone?" Daniel gave the faintest nod. "The day of the accident, I wasn't supposed to be driving. My husband was. But we'd argued that morning, something stupid, dishes, bills I don't even remember. He stormed out. I chased after him, grabbed the keys. If I just let him go, none of this would have happened. She'd still be alive." Her voice cracked, the weight of 5 years collapsing in a single sentence. "Every day since then, I've wished it was me who didn't make it home." Daniel's hands trembled. "Stop saying that." "Why?" she asked, almost desperate. "It's the truth. Because wishing you were dead doesn't bring her back," he said sharply. "It doesn't fix anything. It just keeps the wound open." She looked at him, stunned. "You sound like someone who knows." He laughed bitterly. "You think I haven't had those nights? You think I haven't looked at that empty chair at the table and wanted to vanish?" He took a shaky breath. "But I had to keep living, because dying would have meant letting her die twice." For a moment, neither spoke. Only the rain filled the silence. Then Clara stepped closer, carefully placing something on Lily's desk. A small envelope. "What's that?" Daniel asked. "It's a letter," she said. "For you. I wrote it the day I got out of prison, but never had the courage to send it." He looked at the envelope, hesitating. His instinct was to reject it, to reject her. But something in her trembling voice stopped him. "I'll read it," he said finally. Clara's lips trembled in relief. "Thank you." Daniel opened the letter. The handwriting was neat but unsteady. As he began to read, her voice seemed to echo in his mind. "If you're reading this, it means I found the courage to face you. I don't expect forgiveness. I only hope that one day, when you think of her, you'll remember the light she brought into this world, not the darkness that took her away." When he finished, Daniel couldn't stop the tears that came. He folded the letter carefully, as if it might break. Clara turned toward the door. "That's all I came to say." But as she reached for the handle, Daniel's voice stopped her. "Wait, wait," Daniel said again, this time louder, firmer. Clara froze with her hand on the doorknob. For a moment, the only sound was the rain outside and the faint hum of the refrigerator down the hall. He took a deep breath. "You can't just drop all this and walk out." Clara turned slowly. "I don't want to cause you more pain." I just wanted to say goodbye. Goodbye, he repeated, almost laughing. You think there's a word for what you've done? For what you're carrying? Her eyes shimmered. There isn't. That's why I came. To give it back to where it belongs. Daniel looked at the letter still in his hand, the faded rabbit on the bed beside him. To give it back where it belongs. For years, he had cursed fate, the driver, the rain, even God. But he had never truly faced the person behind it all. And now that she stood in front of him, he didn't know whether he wanted to destroy her or forgive her. He rubbed his face with both hands. I don't know what you expect from me, Clara. Nothing, she said quietly. You already gave me more than I deserve by listening. Daniel shook his head. No, you came here for something. You said she spoke to you, that she told you to tell me the truth. Why now? After all these years? Clara hesitated. Because I'm dying. Daniel froze. What? She nodded. Stage 4 cancer. They found it too late. 6 months, maybe less. I didn't want to leave this world carrying her name and guilt. I wanted her to have peace. And I wanted you to have it too. He stared at her, the anger draining from his body like sand through fingers. You should have led with that. She smiled weakly. Would it have changed anything? Maybe, he admitted. Maybe not. She took a step closer. When I was in prison, I kept thinking about how grief is like a storm. It wrecks everything, tears through your house, your life, your soul. But then, one day it rains softer. You start to rebuild. I guess I came here to tell you that it's okay to rebuild. Daniel's jaw tightened. You think I haven't tried? Every time I try to move on, something drags me back. Her laughter, her drawings, the smell of her shampoo. I kept everything because forgetting felt like betrayal. Clara's voice softened, and remembering feels like punishment. That hit him hard because it was true. He felt his throat close as the years of pain pressed against his chest. What do you want me to do, Clara? Say it's okay. It's not. I don't want you to say it's okay, she whispered. I just want you to stop bleeding. For a long moment, they both stood there, broken mirrors of each other, one shattered by guilt, the other by loss. Finally, Daniel looked down at the rabbit again, then back at her. Do you know what the worst part is? I hated you for so long that I forgot what my daughter's voice sounded like. You became a monster in my story. But standing here, you just look human. Clara smiled faintly, tears streaming down her cheeks. That's all I ever wanted you to see. He took a deep breath and gestured to the chair. Sit, please. She hesitated, then obeyed, her movements slow, frail. Daniel sat across from her. For the first time, the distance between them felt smaller than the weight they shared. I don't know if I can forgive you, he said finally. But maybe I can try to understand you. That's more than enough, she whispered. Outside, thunder rumbled again, but softer this time, almost like an echo of something that used to hurt. Daniel felt his shoulders relax for the first time in years. He looked at Clara, pale, shaking, but somehow peaceful, and realized she wasn't just asking for forgiveness. She was asking to leave this world without hatred. He reached across the table, his hand hovering in the air before finally resting gently on hers. Her fingers were cold, fragile. I don't forgive you, he said softly. Not yet, but I don't hate you anymore. Clara's breath hitched. Her eyes closed, and a tear slipped down her cheek. That's enough. Weeks passed. The rain gave way to spring sunlight, and for the first time in years, Daniel opened the windows of the house. He began to clean Lily's room, carefully, reverently, not to erase her, but to let light in again. The rabbit stayed on her pillow, the letter on her desk. Claire never came back, but one morning, a small envelope arrived in the mail. No return address, just his name written in the same shaky handwriting. Inside was a note and a photograph. Lily at the park, holding her ice cream, smiling toward the camera. On the back, a few words. She forgave me before I asked. Now it's your turn. Daniel sat on the porch for hours that day, staring at the photo until the edges grew warm in his hands. For the first time, he didn't feel anger burning through his chest. He felt relief. Quiet, fragile, but real. A few weeks later, he got a call from hospice nurse. Mr. Collins? I'm calling about a patient named Clara Mendez. She asked that we contact you. Daniel drove 3 hours to the small hospice center outside the city. The nurse led him to a garden behind the building, where Clara sat in a wheelchair, a blanket over her legs, her eyes tired but peaceful. "You came," she said, surprised. "You asked for me," he replied. "I didn't think you would." He sat beside her. "You were right," he said quietly. "About the storm. It doesn't stop, it just gets quieter." Clara smiled faintly. "Did you find peace?" "Not yet," he admitted. "But I'm learning." She nodded, closing her eyes briefly. "That's all any of us can do. Keep learning to live with what we've lost." They sat in silence, the wind moving gently through the trees. When Daniel finally stood to leave, she reached for his hand. "Tell her I'm sorry if you ever see her again." Daniel looked toward the sky. "I think she already knows." Claire smiled, a single tear slipping down her cheek. "Then maybe I can rest." He squeezed her hand one last time and walked away, feeling the weight of years begin to lift, little by little, step by step. A month later, a letter came from the hospice. Clara had passed peacefully in her sleep. Inside the envelope was one final item, a pressed daisy wrapped in paper, and beneath it, her handwriting. "Grief is love with nowhere to go. Thank you for giving it a home again." Daniel placed the flower beside Lily's rabbit, whispered a soft thank you, and finally, quietly, closed the door, not to forget but to begin again.